Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast live on a Thursday. Football is back. Game of the week, Bears Commandos. Woof.
Not great, Bob.
Not great at all.
We've had some opening week was obviously epic for the Thursday night game with Bills Rams. Yeah. So that was awesome. Next week, Chargers Chiefs, one of the better games that we've seen all season. And then you go Browns Steelers, Jacoby versus Mitch Trubisky. Then you go Dolphins Bengals. Of course, all the Tua stuff and that. So that was ugly. Bengals get an ugly win. Finally, in that game, Dolphins scored 15 points. So yikes. And then last week was maybe the worst game, that by far the worst game of the year, 12-9 in overtime. They had to take it to overtime. They had to just subject us to more of this garbage.
Yes.
And now we get Commanders Bears. So
gonna be epic.
Amazon, come on now. You paid enough money for this. Get your shit together. Get your shit together, dog.
Can we start the flex schedule yet? Flex out games? Or?
Flex Thursday games.
Yes.
Wouldn't have a whole lot of great options this week, but to flex in. But we'll get there when we get there.
Cool. In lieu of our question of the day today, it's almost college football playoff seeding time of the year. We'll get our first rankings reveal. So Joe and I thought we would kick off the show with our top 6 college football teams. And Joe, what we're going to do here is we're going to go 4 through 1. So we'll get our playoff teams that are currently in there and then 2 that are on the outside looking in. So I don't know if you want to go 4, I'll go 4, or if you just want to go 4 through 1, and then I'll go my 4 through 1 and we'll go that route. But
I'll go 4 through 1 and then hand it off. Probably easier to track. Number 4 in my top 6 right now is Alabama. They struggled. Yes, Bryce Young was out, but they still struggled with a Texas A&M team this past week that they have no business to lose or to even play a close game to, even if it was a backup quarterback. We saw the backup QB last week run train all over Arkansas when Bryce Young went out, especially in the fourth quarter. And at least my assumption was, okay, they're going to just do that same. They're going to just do, put up the same kind of an offense, run heavy. And it was run heavy. Jahmyr Gibbs had another awesome game. He is an absolute monster at running back. Right now it's between him and Bijan Robinson for top running back. If you're looking at Doak Walker futures, but they struggled with Texas A&M, and I can't put them above 4 right now. Just the way that shook out. Bryce Young is right now certainly not. It's not a lock for him to play against Tennessee right now. It looks like he's going to, more than likely, but coming off a pretty serious shoulder injury that cost him the second half of that Arkansas game and all of last week, you don't know how he's necessarily going to perform. And it just doesn't look like the same dominant Alabama team that we've seen over the past decade, really. I mean, some of these top Alabama teams. So I'm going to Alabama at 4. Number 3, SEC preview to this week, Tennessee. They have been sincerely dominant in all of their games so far. Haven't played great competition. I mean, their top win this year was, you could say either Florida or LSU, but those are 2 SEC teams that are kind of, they're having a little bit more of down years than you generally see out of those teams. However, they've looked extremely impressive, and Hayden Hooker looks like the real deal. Josh Heupel as their head coach looks like he's helped to really turn that program around. So I like them at the number 3 spot. Number 2, I'm going to put Georgia there. I have major concerns about that offense, the way that they were not able to just absolutely blow out Mizzou. 2 weeks ago. Yes, they put up they won 42-10 this past week against Auburn, but Auburn is they might end up canning their coach by year's end. So Auburn's an absolute mess right now. And I just have question marks with Georgia's offense. That defense is still really strong. Going to have another probably 4 guys go in the first round this year in the this upcoming NFL draft, but I just have question marks about the offense. Stetson Bennett looks to be just fine, not the guy that we saw in the college football playoff, but the bigger concern is their running game that has been largely non-existent. Of course, losing Zamir White and James Cook is going to hurt, but they have done nothing on the ground this year. Really, it's so question marks on their offense. And then Ohio State is my number 1 team. Offense is absolutely rolling. We know their skill position guys, Egbuka, Travion Henderson, wide receivers, Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., to name a few. They've got more wide receivers beyond them. And then, of course, CJ Stroud leading that offense. I'm not saying their defense is anything to write home about, but they've played well enough so far to, make me feel pretty confident to give them that number 1 spot in college football. Why don't you run through your top 4?
Sounds good. I have most of the same that you do for the most part. Number 4, I've got Clemson still in there right now. Clemson's undefeated. They're starting to turn around the program right now too a little bit. They were really shaky to start off the year, and we were both talking on our podcast wondering, are they going to fall off here? Which game are they going to lose coming up? And they found ways to win, had a dominant performance in Boston College last week, only giving up 3 points. And DJ Ukulele looks like he's righted the ship a little bit and is looking quite a bit better. So that's definitely doing better there too. But so I've got Clemson at 4. We'll see if they can hold on. There's a couple teams that I'll reveal in a little bit here that are right on their heels. Number 3, I've got Alabama. Again, like you had mentioned, Alabama, you could put them at 4 as well. I don't mind where you have them either. Shaky right now. Again, almost lost last week without Bryce Young, but again, they had Bryce Young at Texas and they almost lost that game on the road in a tough environment. Really haven't been tested too much yet for the most part. I mean, they played an Arkansas team that wasn't what everybody thought they were. Texas A&M.
They aren't who we thought they were.
They are not. So number 2, I've got Ohio State in there. Ohio State, you could put into that 1 spot. I don't mind them where you have them as well, but I'm curious to see once we get into the nitty gritty here coming up. They hadn't played a road game, I don't think, until last week. I mean, they literally played the entire month of September at home.
And the Horseshoe is one of the best offense, or one of the best home environments
So, but that offense is really dynamic. Curious to see. They'll have Michigan at home this year, going to have a tough road game. You'd imagine that would be the whiteout game at Penn State. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
Do we know that's a night game? Is that been confirmed? I sure hope it is.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
Better be.
Yeah.
Penn State right now, top 10 team.
Yep. And then I've got Georgia in the number 1 spot right now for obvious reasons. They've been fairly good throughout the season. Yes, their offense is suspect. The defense, though, is fairly solid. They've given up some late points in games. Some of their scores look a little bit more close than they actually were, where they have allowed, maybe they've let up a little bit in the second half when they were up by a decent amount, but it's not the dominant defense they had last year, but it's still pretty solid in keeping their offense in check.
Yeah, I'm cool flip-flopping Ohio State, Georgia. That's a 50-50 for me. So I think we both probably could have, at least I could have gone either way on that one.
Yep. All right. Who do you have at 5 and 6, Joe?
I got your number 4 at 5, Clemson. Yeah, like you mentioned, Uyunglele has really seemed like he's taken command of that at that quarterback position. I think maybe he saw that Cade Klubnik is legit the way that, when he came in and filled in for the end of the game against Florida State a few weeks back, maybe we're looking a month back at this point, and said, okay, I'm going to lose this job unless I'm really good. And he's been really good since, especially once they've started running the ball with him. I mean, a lot of QB draws, a lot of QB options with DJ. And I think that that's really helped that defense or that offense. I have questions about their defense, but they've been able to score enough where I can feel pretty comfortable putting them in there as a top 5 team. Number 6, number 1 scoring team in the country, UCLA.
All right.
I'm going there. I have been, it was between them, honorable mention USC. Reason I don't put Michigan in there is I just don't know if that offense is explosive enough. But those 2 offenses at UCLA, USC, I could flip flop 6 and 7 there. That's my 6 and 7. But I'm gonna lean with Chip Kelly, who has made national title games in the past, very experienced quarterback, and that again, scoring 42 points a game. That's baller. They really showed me something against Utah this past week. So, which really that was their first test of the season. So for them to really control that entire game, I have to give them a massive amount of credit. USC's been awesome all season as well, but again, has USC's toughest test thus far has been Oregon State at Oregon State. And, Oregon State, that talent versus Utah's talent, not necessarily that comparable. So I have to give the edge to UCLA over USC here, and that's why I've got UCLA here at 6.
Sounds good. I have Tennessee at number 5. That win last week at LSU put them into the top 5 for me, and I think they are legit. I'm curious to see. We'll be previewing that game here in a second, but again, tough home test against Alabama coming into town. And then number 6, I did flip-flop. I've got USC in there, and UCLA would be the next closest in there. The talent on USC, I think, is just one that is going to keep them steady throughout the season. And we'll see if UCLA starts facing some adversity. I believe that's the second to last game of the season's USC UCLA. So we'll get
that's going to be amazing.
Good fun matchup.
I hope they both go into that game undefeated.
That'd be awesome. That would be really cool. And true test with them too, with some of those Pac-12 road games. But no, I see a noticeable one.
So we went 0 for 6. We had none of the same in the top 6.
Nope, we did not.
Hell yeah, that's good.
We should do the AP rankings.
Would probably be better at it.
We can be found at Dead Arm Sports.
Hey, shout out before we, you mentioned AP rankings. Shout out James Madison.
Yeah, cracking the
5
top 25.
games deep into their FBS existence, and they're cracking the top 25. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yes, it is. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Type in Dead Arm Sports into the search bar on YouTube. You'll find our page. Subscribe, click the bell. You'll know when our live episodes drop and other videos. Monitoring the chat so that way you can ask us any questions there. If we're not live on there, don't fret. You can still get your questions answered. You can find Gel at Dawson Gel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at Dawson JPEG. That's at DASJPEC. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. We'll send some sticker swag your way. All you have to do is send us a screenshot of that review. Week 7 NCAA preview. Holy matchups this week. I have a boner. This is an unbelievable slate. We've talked about these two teams a little bit, so we probably don't have to talk a ton about this matchup, Gel, but Alabama traveling to Tennessee, biggest game of the college football season so far. Biggest matchup that Tennessee has hosted in quite some time. Both teams undefeated. We don't know Bryce Young's status yet. Game day going back to Knoxville for a second time already this season. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this SEC battle.
Certainly the you go back to week 1 and it was number 3 Ohio State versus number 5 Notre Dame, and we thought, oh my God, what a great week 1 matchup. Yep. Notre Dame still sucks, but yeah. I mean, I hope that Bryce Young plays.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little disappointing if he doesn't, because you just want the best of both teams here. A Tennessee win over Alabama without Bryce Young there it just doesn't feel, it's not going to feel as significant. It's not going to feel as big of a W. So I'm sitting here and as much as I am likely going to be rooting for Tennessee in this game, well, I should say absolutely, I hope Bryce Young is there so that it is a best versus the best on both teams. But when's the last time Tennessee's been ranked this high? Like 2000, 2001, maybe?
Yeah, probably their national championship season. I would have to imagine.
That T. Martin season, which I think was 2000. Yeah. I mean, which is nuts. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, I think that the way that we've seen these two teams play, especially over the last few weeks, we saw Alabama struggle with Texas against a team that had a legitimate quarterback in Quinn Ewers. We've seen Hayden Hooker all season long. He looks like the part. And I mean, I give credit to you, man. You called that before the season, before we got into this season. I got to give you credit because you were definitely right on Hayden Hooker making a big difference this season in this Tennessee team. And we've seen it all season long. Like you said, 2 undefeated teams, but Alabama's they've had a few shaky games, few very, obviously mentioned the Texas game, Texas A&M last week. Yes, no Bryce Young, but still A&M's been a disappointment, and they hung in there all game long with Alabama. So
in Tuscaloosa too.
At home So this is, a road test. One of the top performing quarterbacks on the season so far in Hooker. Josh Heupel has to have, he's got this program rolling. So I'm in. This is I guess I can't be out. This is the game of the year so far. So yeah, I'm just excited to see it. And I think it ends up being a really, really close, tight-knit game.
Yeah, I'm just excited too, because we'll finally get to see, is Tennessee a pretender or a contender in this college football playoff? And no better test than Alabama, the perennial national powerhouse, coming into town to put you in your place, or you put them in your place and start making a name for yourself and start getting into talks of, all right, can we keep this undefeated train rolling to our Georgia matchup in a couple weeks here too? So a tough test down the road for Tennessee, but man, they could do some wonders with their college playoff hopes here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to go down back to the Big 12 and shit. I guess I'm bringing up Oklahoma again. Facing at home against Kansas. We know, Jaden Daniel, it sounds like he's out for the season. Major shoulder injury that was confirmed today. We're recording on a Tuesday. That was confirmed today on Tuesday that he's done. And that leaves Kansas. And I still can't believe this spread the way that Oklahoma has been playing lately. That leaves Kansas as an 8.5-point dog. I get that Jalen Daniel has been obviously a major spark for this Kansas offense, but Oklahoma doesn't have an offense. So I just kind of question that line. It is at Oklahoma. I just think 8.5 points is a bit much. Lance Leopold obviously is one of the better offensive coaches in the country right now, at least out of the guys that went into this season as somewhat unknown dudes. And I'm just kind of shocked at that line, but I think it's going to be extremely competitive, even with Jalen Daniels being out.
Yeah, and right now I don't have it up in front of me. I'm not sure on Dylan Gabriel's status for that game either. He was out in the Red River shootout last week. He warmed up and then they went into the locker room and they came back out and no pads on. But yeah,
Venables said that he expects him back, which would make a difference, but he wasn't necessarily lighting it up either before his injury.
Yeah, their offense just hasn't clicked like it did in the Lincoln Riley days. But Oklahoma, I mean, this is pretty much as must win as it gets for your season. Like, you can't go 0-4 in your last 4 and start a 4-game skid here. And if you're Kansas, this is a great way to bounce back after a tough TCU game at home. Again, they hung right in there in that game, but going to be a tough road environment. Oklahoma fans are going to be
pissed.
Win.
They're pissed.
So yeah, the spread I think is a big kick in the nuts to Kansas, but I don't know. I think Oklahoma does bounce back in this one. But let's stay in the Big 12 here and go to another unbeaten battle and go to the Cowboys versus the Horned Frogs. Oklahoma State at TCU.
How about them Cowboys?
TCU, 3.5-point favorite at home right now, but this is going to be a great quarterback battle. Spencer Sanders, Max Duggan here in this one, and this is pretty much to see who stays undefeated and has the leg up on taking home a Big 12 championship, getting into that championship game. So this is a huge matchup here. I'm excited for it. And who thought we'd have so many Big 12 games we've been excited for this season?
There's been over these past few weeks, I've been shocked at how much Big 12 and Pac-12 we've been talking, but they're more loaded than I guess we thought. Just good teams, and of course those are the two conferences that seem to be potentially crumbling, with the SEC and the Big Ten coming in and trying to scoop those programs up. But I think Spencer Sanders is my favorite quarterback to watch in the country right now. I love ground game, what he's able to do on the ground. And he's got a sweet arm. He's not, the biggest dude. He's just kind of a little short, stocky, quick dude. He's just so much damn fun to watch. And TCU has obviously been awesome this season, especially the way they just absolutely wiped out Oklahoma 2 weeks ago and then took care of business this past week. But I think we're looking at good old fashioned Big 12 shootout, like a 55-51 type of game here, which
I can see that. Haven't
had one of those yet, at least between two top teams yet this season. So this is going to be a fun one. If that over under is at like 70, I think you gotta dive into that over right now.
I would think so. Yeah.
Let me look that up in a sec here.
Sounds good. I'll look it up while you bring up your next game, Joe.
Got to hop over to the Big Ten for the Big Ten game of the week, and that is Penn State at Michigan. Penn State's been awesome all year, jumping into that top 10 of that AP top 10. This is going to be the big noon kickoff.
68.5.
Oh fuck! I am pounding the shit on that over. Once I'm done, I'm putting down a little quiche.
Responsibly, of course.
Yeah, for entertainment purposes only. No, Penn State's looked awesome this year. Their offense has actually been somewhat responsible, which is great. Michigan's offense has been somewhat questionable. Both teams' defenses are obviously awesome. Michigan has, their majority of their offense is on the ground, and that's what I think is going to leave Penn State. It's going to allow them to stay in this game. I think I give the edge to Michigan here just because they are at home. But I think that if this game was at
Beaver Stadium,
I was like, wait, I was trying to think of the state. Beaver Stadium, which doesn't make any sense. They're not Beavers. Interesting. If this game was at Beaver Stadium, I think this is a 50-50 battle. I guess I give the edge, games at the big house, but so I give it to Michigan, but this is probably the Big Ten game of the year thus far here. Penn State at Michigan.
Yeah, nope. I had this one written down too, and this will tell us a lot and give one of these teams the inside track to going up against Ohio State to see who represents the Big Ten East of this year. Penn State, yeah, traveling to the Big House. Big House is going to be fired up. Penn State's had a week to prepare for this game. They did have a bye last week, so they should be well rested up here. And I'm just curious to see what this Michigan team looks like, because to me, the last couple of weeks, they haven't looked good. They struggled against Maryland, barely came away with a victory there. Iowa only put up 3 touchdowns there, and that was a pretty close game for a while. And by the way, shout out to Iowa losing at Illinois last week 9-6. Talk about a shit game.
Come on.
Talk about a shit game. And I feel bad for anybody in attendance there. And then Michigan, yeah, they ended up handling Indiana this last week in Bloomington, but that was a really close game going into that late third quarter into the fourth quarter. So not really impressive offensively lately. So I'm curious. Penn State's been rolling. They had a huge win at Auburn earlier this season. Granted, yes, it's Auburn. They're not that great, but still a tough SEC road environment to go to. And that was a pretty decent game. But yeah, no, I'm curious to see here if Michigan, one of these teams, is going to be a pretender here. Both undefeated right now, and we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Next game. Oh no, this is yours.
Yes, sir. I am going out west, and Utah has been struggling a lot lately. USC is coming into town, and just curious, USC, like you had said a little bit earlier on, haven't been tested a ton this year. And Oregon State was their toughest game so far on the road, and going to Utah struggled. They're on a little bit of a slide right now. But just curious to see if Utah bounces back, the home crowd gets into it here, maybe give a tough test to USC here.
Yeah, I think Utah has a super legit shot here. The strength of Utah is, the strength of USC is their skill players, wide receivers, DBs, some nice linebackers, obviously Caleb Williams at QB, and a nice back in Travis Dye. But where USC struggles is both on the offensive and defensive lines. And that's where Utah's best. I'm tempted to give the edge here to Utah, especially this being at home. I think it could be an ugly game. I don't expect a whole lot of scoring. The question is, can USC make enough explosive plays here against Utah? Because if SC is sitting there expecting to have long drives and, hey, we're going to have, having 8+ play drives, I think they're mistaken. I think what they're going to need to do is have a few explosive touchdowns where, Caleb drops a dime to, and Jordan Addison, for example, like, so I think that they're going to be pretty reliant on some more explosive plays to be able to score here. Because sustaining drives against this Utah defense is not going to be easy, given that USC's offensive line is not their strength. So I'm tempted to give the edge to Utah. I just question if USC is going to be able to make enough explosive plays here to get this W.
Curious too. I mean, USC, for how high they're ranked right now, 3.5-point underdogs heading into Utah. So maybe a little chip on their shoulder heading into that matchup.
And they have to be 3.5-point dogs for. I get Vegas sees this game probably the same way that I do, where yep. I think it's just going to be a struggle on the interior, offensive, defensive lines. A lot of times these games can come down to that. And if Caleb has no time to throw, and if they're able to put a spy on him, maybe eliminate some of his damage that he can do on the ground, I think Utah could totally win this game. And I think Vegas is thinking the same way.
Yep. You have any other games you want to throw out, Joe?
Yeah, this NC State Syracuse game, I'm kind of shocked that NC State hasn't fallen off down these rankings a little bit more. I mean, they're sitting there hovering at 15, but they scooted by Florida State last week at home by 2 points in a 19-17 game. We haven't seen their offense do diddly squat really this season, putting up 20 points against a Clemson defense that had been rough all season so far. I mean, question mark is that NC State offense, and Syracuse has a super legit running game. Yeah. I think that this again ends up as another low scoring game, but I certainly don't see NC State pulling off a W here. This game is being played in New York at Q's. So I got Q's taking away the W here, and NC State finally, well, I guess they do have one loss, but I think they're kind of a fraudulent 5-1 team right now.
Yeah, I think they are too. Got handled the other week in Clemson. And yeah, we'll see at Syracuse. Their whole key, again, like you said, is a run game. Sean Tucker is phenomenal running back there. He's also a fun Twitter follow. He recaps the games and tells how his performance is. So you should definitely give him a follow on the old Twitter while you're following us at Dead Arm Sports, DasGel, and DasJPEG.
Good work.
No, it'll be a good ACC battle there. And yeah, I'd probably lean Q's too, just with it being, is it still the Carrier Dome? They changed the name yet, but
I don't know. They probably changed it by now. Every stadium has just about every stadium has a new name now.
Right. Last game, I want to give just a quick shout out to, if Will Levis plays, Mississippi State at Kentucky could be an absolute shootout and a really, really fun game to watch. The other Will Rogers right now, 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in that Mike Leach,
baby.
Mike Leach offense. So, but no, if Will Levis doesn't play, we just saw South Carolina go into Lexington last week and knock off Kentucky. Kentucky, not the same team without Will Levis. So not really sure on his injury status. There's rumors he was in a boot last week. So keep an eye on that one. Again, this is just one that if both Wills are playing, I think this one has a making of a fun SEC shootout, which you don't get to see too often.
Levis did return to practice today, so that's at least encouraging. But he's still day to day.
Okay. So
I just question what that rehab process looks like. If it's drinking coffee that's been doused in mayo or if it's eating rotten bananas whole.
Maybe mixing rotten bananas into your coffee with mayo. Just like a big smoothie.
Big coffee banana smoothie. As long as you eliminate, if you get rid of the mayo, it's maybe passable. Maybe. And the banana peel.
All right, it is time for our college football upset of the week. Congrats, Joe, on the board last week, taking Utah State over Air Force. We are currently tied 1-1. So who you got this week?
Well, I had Tennessee ranked above Alabama in my top 4. So, and Tennessee being at home, I got to give them the edge in this game. 7.5 point dogs. Tennessee over Alabama, straight up 1 point W for me.
I like it. I had Tennessee, Alabama written down when I was prepping for the podcast yesterday. And a line changed in a game that I was a lot more excited about picking the underdog in. If you notice in my top 6, I left Michigan out of my rankings because I think Penn State's going into Ann Arbor this week and knocking off Michigan. So
I was surprised at this line
up
too.
To 7 points.
Yep.
Penn State a touchdown underdog in this one. So I like Penn State this week, and I like Penn State to give Ohio State a good fight too in the couple weeks from now too. But we'll start off with Ann Arbor and Penn State walking away victorious.
Yeah, I was very tempted by that game for sure. I was also looking at this Minnesota Illinois game, although that line dropped down to, I guess I wasn't necessarily looking at this for the upset. I was surprised though that Minnesota was over a touchdown favorite. Granted, Illinois hasn't looked, I mean, obviously they scored 9 points last week, but they did their defense has taken care of business the last few. So I was kind of surprised to see at that point they were over a touchdown favorite. That line has dropped now down to 6.5. So I guess bettors are on my side, siding with Illinois. But yeah, I was just kind of surprised at that line as well. But no, Penn State over Michigan, that would have been the other game I would have picked as well.
Yep. All right, moving into NFL. Some of these games you might want to put a bet down for entertainment purposes, because like our week 5 preview, not a ton of great games going on this week. We do have a nice rematch of that epic divisional round game last year. Buffalo returning to Kansas City. Going to kick it off there. I mean, this one should be an absolute slugfest. I want any piece of any of these offenses for my fantasy teams. And this one is going to be another shootout. The Bills offense has been on fire, rolling through everybody. And Kansas City, just saw last Monday, their offense, Travis Kelce, 4 touchdowns. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But no, this game is going to be one for the ages, one of the better games so far this year. We'll see. I think the run games are going to have to get going in this one too. Devin Singletary, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We'll see what we got working with them, but I expect another big game out of Gabe Davis. Expect another good game out of Stephon Diggs. This one is just going to be the one I'm tuned into at 3:15, Bills Chiefs, and that is the game of the week.
It's about the only good game of the week. I mean,
correct, yes.
Battle of obviously the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. I'm just curious as to how. I mean, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a ton of points. I think the Bills need to really try to establish something on the ground to try to keep their own defense off the field. Because, I mean, you see this Chiefs offense. Yeah, they're not as explosive without Tyreek Hill, but that makes it more tiring for a defense. The way that they now can methodically operate on offense. And if the Bills can't establish any sort of run game, I mean, that defense is just going to get worn out. And we've seen it over the past few weeks where the Bills, I mean, outside of this Steelers game, obviously, but it's not like they have the team to run away with every game, but we saw them struggle against the Dolphins. We saw them struggle against the Ravens. I think I give the edge to KC here. And again, it's at Arrowhead for what's right now been the best, or will be the best game of the NFL season.
Yeah, without a doubt. What any other juicy matchups here this week, Joe?
I guess I'm gonna, what's crazy is I have to go to Cardinals Seahawks for this battle of a disappointing quarterback in Kyler and a quarterback that's played ridiculously excellent in Geno Smith. Geno right now is, I mean, he's been the best quarterback in that division by, especially statistically, between, granted, it's Jimmy G, Kyler's disappointing, and Matt Stafford being who knows how healthy he is. But Geno's been awesome so far this season. Kyler's been a disappointment. This entire Cardinals team has been a disappointment. Both teams are 2-3 right now. So I don't know how much credit I can just throw the Seahawks way. They don't even have a winning record, but they are putting up a ton of points. Cardinals have been massively disappointing. It is in Seattle. And again, as somebody, I've mentioned this in the past, I've been to Lumen Field. I was at that game when Russell got knocked out for Geno.
Geno.
And the crowd was going nuts, chanting Geno. So that Hawks fan base loves the dude. I got to be honest. I'm rooting Seahawks. First off, I'm done with Kyler, so I can't root for that guy. I don't think. I don't know when I can again, but I am definitely a Hawks fan this season. Count me in. I love that Seahawks offense. They look better than they did with Russell Wilson. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe this, we had former co-host Rick sent to our little group chat that he said, "Am I crazy? Or does this Pete Carroll offensive scheme work and Russell was holding it back?"
Yeah.
Because Geno looks a lot better than Russ right now. And when Russ was in Seattle last year, even before his thumb injury, it wasn't looking very explosive. And Geno's off to an excellent start. And he did it last week. They put up 31 points against the Saints defense that, let's be honest, is pretty legit. So they're putting up points. The only reason they lost that game is because Taysom Hill went off, 3 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. So I got to give it to I think this game is going to be a lot more competitive than we would have thought at the beginning of this season. I may have to say the Seahawks should be the favorite in this one.
Yeah. No, this one is one that you definitely at the start of the season would have thought was lopsided, but Geno's kind of rejuvenated his career a little bit and looks halfway decent and has the Seahawks rolling a little bit. I'm excited. And Dynasty, I know you have him in our league of record, Gel. Ken Walker should be getting the reins here. I'm sure DJ Dallas, your boy, will be sprinkled in a little bit too, but should
Go
get to see them.
DJ Geno.
See them going too. But no, Seattle's been a surprise team. I don't expect them to make the playoffs or anything, but they've been way more competitive than we thought. And I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing though, because I think Seahawks fans were hoping for a top pick, get their next quarterback of the future. But
I mean, they are still 2-3.
Yeah,
it's not like they're 5-0.
No, but I don't know. They're winning more games than they probably should for going after one of the top quarterbacks off the board.
Right.
But we'll see. A lot of season left. My only other game, I guess, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored in this one, but it's Cowboys at Eagles. I don't know. This one, I don't think it'll be exciting. It'll be an exciting game to watch. I think it'll be frustrating from a fantasy aspect. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in this one. I'm curious to see what the status of Dak is as well. Is he going to be back for this one? I know they said last week he was having a little bit of trouble gripping the football still. So maybe
Jerry said
that.
And he says everything. He's wild card of all wild cards. So I'm not putting any stake into what.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, winner of this one will be atop the surprisingly decent NFC East. So we didn't think that was going to be a good division at the start of the year, but
I still don't think it is.
No, but the Cowboys defense is legit. If their offense can keep up with other teams, then they should be fine. They'll be creeping into the playoff talk, I think, just with how down the NFC is this year. And Eagles, you got your friendly wager down on that one, Gel, at the beginning of the season for the division, and they're looking solid. Last remaining team standing in the undefeated category.
I like it a lot. Yeah, I just hope the Cowboys finally figure out that Tony Pollard is the guy that needs to be fed. Like, enough feeding Zeke. He's slow enough. Quit feeding him. Zeke, 22 carries, 78 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Tony Pollard, 8 carries, almost a third of what Zeke got for 86. 10.8 yards a carry and a score. He did have a 65-yarder, so that obviously bumps that average up a ton. But that's what you get with Tony Pollard, where he has that ability to run away from defenses. He can make one cut and run past an entire secondary, where Zeke will probably never do that again in his career. I just think he's done. So I think if the Cowboys really want to have a chance in this game, it's got to be more of an even 50-50 split between Pollard and Zeke. We've seen the Eagles be dominant all season long. We've also seen them kind of struggle a little bit in the second halves, especially offensively. They did put up and they only put up 20 points against the Cardinals last week. So against a Cardinals defense that really isn't all that special.
No.
Obviously the Eagles have they've got the advantage here in this game, but it should be, I think it'll be competitive. I think also if I'm the Cowboys, I wait to put Dak in until Cooper Rush loses a game. If they lose this game and Dak is fully healthy, I'm riding with him the following week, but I don't think I can put Dak in until Cooper Rush loses. They're 4-0 with him. I don't know where you sit on that.
Yeah, I'd put Dak back in, I think, once he's fully healthy, but there's absolutely no need to rush him back until he's fully healthy.
No pun intended.
Cooper Rush starts to slide. But no, say it every week. They just somehow keep winning games.
It's not easy to win. It's never easy to win. So I think you ride the hot hand as long as you can. And at least until Dak's fully healthy, but who knows when that's going to be. Yeah. Last game that I need to touch on, and this is two teams that have been severely disappointing. Jags, Colts. Jags, sad. The Jags, I was so close, like so damn close to starting to trust them and starting to trust Trevor Lawrence. I was so close. And then they piss the bed against the freaking Texans, lose straight up 13-6. Trevor Lawrence throws an interception in the end zone. That was really their only legitimate scoring opportunity for the entire day, at least touchdown wise. Texans are kind of feisty. Obviously, we saw them get that miraculous, or that maybe I shouldn't say miraculous. I should say the notorious tie week 1 against the Colts. But God, I was so damn close with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags and Doug Peterson. I was feeling so good, and then they put up this just complete dud. And then they're facing the Colts, who I didn't have necessarily high hopes for them, but I certainly didn't expect them to be as inept on offense as they are. Ranked right now 32nd out of 32 teams offensively in terms of points per game. Not great, Bob. Jonathan Taylor, I believe, is still questionable for this game. If he plays, that should help. But, it better help. It can't get much worse. So, I guess I'm just looking forward to see if I'm not looking forward to anything Colts wise. I don't want to ever watch a Colts game this season. Matt Ryan's done. He's been done, I thought, for 2 years. Now this is just kind of the icing on the cake to confirm that he's done. They're starting to already dig that grave for him. But I want to see if the Jags can bounce back, because that was a pathetic loss. And if they have they still could get this division. The Titans are 3-2, the Jags are 2-3, but the Titans are a bad 3-2. I think that I still think I like the Jags for this division, but if they lose this one, I have to completely flip my opinion on the Jags, because this Colts team has been pathetic all season.
Yeah, this division is just absolute trash right now. And like you said, there seemed to be a little bit of a bright spot with Jacksonville going into last week, but then, like you said, 6 points against the Texans. I mean, not
Can't
great.
happen.
No, but
Can't
I think
happen.
my biggest thing I think with the Colts is Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. You can't just get some old quarterback that has had success in the past to come in and fill in a spot in your lineup. You need to do something different. This has not worked. You got one playoff appearance out of Phillip Rivers somehow. Granted, they were pretty decent that year. They ran into, I believe, Buffalo, and Buffalo just destroyed
big time.
them. But
and they got wrecked.
yes, Carson Wentz last year did not work out. Matt Ryan, no, he is
not a chance.
Like you said, he is just absolutely washed. And this passing game is not going to get going at all this year. So you need to just feed the ball to Jonathan Taylor and hope that you can get through teams running the ball, because Matt Ryan is not going to win you any games this year. With that, it is time for our Drew Locks. If you are new to the show, welcome in. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell on our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to all of our other listening platforms. But Gel, you are now in the lead. You got 1/3 of your total season points last week, and now up to 157. I am at 144. So
thank you, Travis Kelce, for your 4 touchdowns. That did me a lot of good.
Austin Eckler, not too shabby of
Austin
a performance
Eckler as well.
So
the Brady Evans combo was
a little bit of a dud.
Man, I mean, Mike Evans was kind of a dud. Brady got 9 and change. But it was obviously Eckler and Kelce that kind of carried my team this week.
Yep. But so if you're new to it, each week, Jell and I pick a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. Once you use the player, you cannot use them again. Whatever fantasy points they get for that week, you get to add to your score, and you can't pick the same player as your opponent. Week 6, I have even weeks, so I am up first. And what have I been saying all year, Joe? You play your tight ends versus the Seattle Seahawks. So Zach Ertz is in my lineup this week. Seattle giving up just monster weeks to tight ends. If you want to count Taysom Hill as a tight end, well, he had a fantastic week last week for the Saints and kept the streak going. So I'm gonna ride the not so hot hand of the Seattle defense against tight ends and take Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz was my number 1 tight end I had written down. So fair enough. Fair enough. All right, I'm gonna kick it over to that. I'm gonna get over to the wide receiver position. I'm gonna get a little Cooper Kuppy action going on. I don't know what to make of this Carolina team, but Kupp has been the only thing that has worked so far for the Rams. And the Rams are going to expect to win this game. I expect them to win this game pretty handily, even though they've been a mess as a team. Carolina's even more of a mess. I like what he's going to do against Carolina.
I like it. I'm going to go over to the running back position here, and your pick last week, Mr. Austin Eckler, had a fantastic matchup and week against Cleveland, and I am going to take the running back going up against Cleveland this week. Damian Harris is out, so I am locking in Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's going to have a nice game.
Work. Legit nice RB1 this week for any
RB1.
Owners.
Yep. RB1. So I like heavy workload there going up against Cleveland, and should have a solid week.
That's a great pick. This is going to be the best week for him, or potentially could be the best week for him on the season. I will go over to quarterback, and guess who? Gino.
Nice.
Arizona. He's been putting up ridiculous numbers. I think I really wonder where the Cardinals' mindset is as a team. It can't be a healthy mindset right now. And I'm not saying that defense is starting to, or that team is going to be like, kind of, bought out, I guess. whatever the opposite of bought in is. I guess it's bought out, which doesn't make any sense as a phrase. But no, I'm loving Geno against Arizona, and I'm going to ride that hot hand. So let's go Geno Smith.
I like it. I'm going to also go with the quarterback position, and I am going to take a chance and take the quarterback opposing Geno Smith this week. I'm going to go with Kyler. I think the Cardinals running back are pretty banged up right now, so I think they're going to be forced to use a lot of that passing offense this week. And Seattle's been giving up a ton of points. Cardinals have also been giving up a ton of points. So I think this could potentially be one of those games that you just want a piece of because it could be a potentially high scoring matchup. And again, I said Zach Ertz, tight end, should have a nice week. So I'm going to try and go with that stack and rocking the stack so far this year. So I'll keep going with Kyler.
Yeah, this is going to be the first week that I don't have a stack. And I'm going to go. So I guess I'll drop my tight end here. If this is legal, I'm going Taysom Hill.
Yep. He's in that spot.
I mean, he's eligible in every league as a tight end. As an owner of him in 2 leagues, he played in one of mine. He was on my bench in the other. But he did end up contributing to a W in the league that I did play him in last week. I'm going to ride that while Jameis is still questionable at best, if not out again this week. I think Dennis Allen is, he's like, well, he scored 3 touchdowns or 4, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air.
Yeah.
I'm going to rock some Taysom action again this week. So let's put him in there, that tight end spot.
My last pick is at the wide receiver position, and I'm going to travel to Hotlanta.
Triple stack?
No, travel to Hotlanta. Jimmy G's got a nice matchup in this one, and Debo gets a ton of work on the ground. So I like San Francisco to come away with a victory in this one, and I think Debo's going to have a nice game versus that Falcons defense. So locking Debo.
That's a pretty, that Falcons defense has been questionable since the second half, as we said in the previous week, since the second half against the Brady Patriots that came back 28-3. So it's been pretty bad since then. I love that Debo pick, and he's been putting up some really nice weeks lately. Running back, got to fill that one in, and I'm going to go Aaron Jones against the Jets.
That was my backup.
Yep.
I like it.
I think that I think they're just, at this point, it's like, just get a freaking W. The ground game is working, and don't, maybe Rodgers thought of let's air it out with 39 passes for 222 yards. He realizes, okay, we still can't air it out. And it's going to be a lot of Aaron Jones, a lot of AJ Dillon. Aaron Jones, I think, has looked like the more dynamic back. I like that versus this Jets defense that has a lot of very promising players, but they're also still a very young team. So Aaron Jones, think he's going to have a really nice week this week.
Love it. We'll see what happens next week. Hopefully I can get back into the winner's circle.
Geno, Kupp, Aaron Jones, Taysom Hill, Kyler, Debo, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Ertz.
Yep. So it should be some fun ones, not guys that crack a lot of lineups very often, at least
especially Geno,
Ramondre,
and Taysom.
So, yes. All right. That'll wrap up this episode. Can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Guess what? You can type Dead Arm Sports into a YouTube search bar and we will pop up. Subscribe, click the bell there. Ding. And we monitor the chat during our live recordings, typically on Tuesdays. But if you click the bell, you'll know exactly what day we record each given week. So that way you can jump on, ask us any questions you want. When we're not on YouTube, you can find Gel at DOS Gel. I can be found at DOS JPEG. You can send us any questions, comments there. And make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, and we'll get you some swag sent your way for free. Gel, what are some of those platforms?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on whatever your chosen listening platform is. Take a screenshot of that written review, send it to us on our socials. Again, that's at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter and Instagram, at DosJPEG, at DosGel as well. Or find us on our Facebook page just by searching Dead Arm Sports. Find us on YouTube. Just search Dead Arm Sports. Channel should be the first thing that pops up at the top of your search bar.
All right. So hope everyone has a fantastic weekend wherever you are. Hopefully your fantasy teams win. And before we get to our fantasy teams on Sunday, again, this is going to be one fine, glorious Saturday of football. So many great games to watch. So I am looking forward to being parked on the couch most of the weekend watching some football. And Joe, close her out.
Commanders versus Bears gives me the runs, but at least it's still football. Let's have some fun.